Talk Radio. Your host, Joe Cristiano.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone, to Liberty Talk Radio, America's libertarian voice, broadcasting from our studio in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to around the world. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano, and this is your antidote to popular talk radio. Folks, it's time for us to take back control of our government. Now, before this bureaucratic, oversized, and self-serving federal government starves us of our property, our freedom, our rights, and our liberty. But to do this, we must shed conventional thinking regarding our political structure. We need to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back. And this program is just about that. Well, today this is noontime here in Central Time from Tulsa, Oklahoma, to have Rick Rule as our guest. Unfortunately, we got our scheduling mixed up, and it's all our fault. We are going to have him on our show, not at 12 o'clock. We're going to have him here today at 4 o'clock. So we're going to have another broadcast 4 hours from now. So since we are on the air, and I'm sure people have tuned in, I apologize. And you may have to listen to me rant for about 20 minutes to a half hour, but I think you'll find it enjoyable, so don't go anywhere, okay? The first thing I'd like to, so Rick Rule will be with us at 4 o'clock Central Time. We will be back. Don't go away. Folks, there's so much euphoria today regarding the election that now that Donald Trump, being a businessman, is going to turn around the United States. Somehow, magically, he's going to do this. Here's my problem with the Trump campaign. Now, don't get me wrong. I would prefer Trump over Hillary any day of the week. But here's my problem, is that he says he's going to do things. What we don't get from him is how he's going to do it. Well, it's easy to say, well, we're going to make America great again. You say, well, how are we going to do that? Well, one way that you cannot never make America great is if you start building walls and enforcing, increasing the tariffs around the world. In fact, you'll impoverish America if anything else. So my problem is that so far we have a lot of words, we have very little action, and we really don't know what he is going to do. Now, just recently, apparently he visited with the Ford Motor plant in the South that was going to move to Mexico, and now they're not moving. Well, I'm happy about that, but don't get me wrong, I'm glad that the plant will be here and producing cars here rather than in Mexico. But here's my problem, is that we don't know why they made that decision, or if they made that decision before he even visited with them. It would seem unlikely that they are already packed and ready to go and move to Mexico, and that takes a tremendous amount of planning. And then he visits and comes back and says, well, no, they're not moving anymore. This is not something where you say, well, let's go for pizza. No, I don't feel like pizza. Let's go for a hamburger. I mean, this is not the same type of decision making that we go through. It may take months in order to make that decision, from going to not closing a plant here in the United States and opening up in Mexico. It would take months to reverse that. And so I'm just saying that what people are thinking about what Trump is doing and applauding what he's doing has no semblance to reality. Now, quite frankly, I'm not an anti-Trump person. I want to really sincerely see him succeed. But here are some of the words that we never heard, or very rarely heard, when he was campaigning, and we still don't hear. We don't hear the word Constitution in its purest sense. If he read the Constitution, he would realize that 90% of what our government does is unconstitutional. Well, if 90%, or I say 90%, much of what the government does is unconstitutional. If he was running on put America back to work again, America first, and all sorts, he would be referencing the Constitution and say, I am going to delete all of these programs. Give you an example. He says he is going to eliminate but replace Obamacare. Now, I'm glad that he's eliminating Obamacare. What frightens me is, what is he replacing it with? Now, if he was truly a free market person, as everyone believes that he is, I don't think he is, but it believes that he is, he would say we're going to eliminate Obamacare, and we're going to do something very constitutional for once in the past, in 100 years. We're going to do something very constitutional, and that is the government is not responsible for the personal health care of the individual. They are with their doctors and the medical system. So we are removing Obamacare and we're returning it to the free market. Immediately, the cost of health care would go down over 90%. Over 90%. I've spoken to many doctors about this, and they all agree. And I've done my own research, and I can prove to you on pencil and paper how it would be 90% cheaper. But no, he doesn't say that. He says he's going to replace it. Well, but he's going to maintain this, he's going to maintain that, he's going to, maintain the pre-existing conditions. I had a talk with a very good friend of mine whose wife has a pre-existing condition. Under Obamacare, originally the cost of health care was like $650 a month about a year ago. It's increased now to over $1,350 a month. She has a pre-existing condition, which is covered, but he has a $6,000 deductible. I mean, this guy's going bankrupt just paying for his health care. Now, he said, well, I really need that pre-existing condition, and I can sympathize with that. But my response to him was this. If, in fact, we had a free market system, right, the pre-existing condition would cost less than it's costing now under Obamacare, under any government health care system, because the cost of health care would go down precipitously, and it would be affordable for everyone, even if you had a pre-existing condition. Now, would that apply to everyone? No, not everyone's it's not going to apply to everyone. But our healthcare system is such, and has been historically, that if someone is in need of medical care, and we're taking the government out altogether, and people are paying cash on the barrelhead for operations or for doctor's visits, and someone comes in and they're going to die unless they get this medical care, the medical care system will take care of it. And if you didn't pay it, so be it. I have an employee of mine that right when he was first hired, in fact, he was only working part-time at the time, and he was working on his mother's car, and he put some fuel in the carburetor. They started the car, it blew up, burnt his whole body. It was very surprised that the doctors were surprised that he lived. He had all his tissue, all his facial tissue, everything. The guy was a wreck. I remember seeing him in the hospital. His blood pressure was like 19. They didn't expect him to live. Right? Well, he did live, and he had this hellacious bill, and he was paying it on a month-to-month. He had no health care whatsoever. Very poor kid, very economically poor kid, and he was paying month by month. And after he did that for several years, paying month by whatever he could pay, they wrote him a letter. They said, "We're going to excuse the rest. You're free and clear." Now, this did not happen a long time ago. This was before Obamacare, but when we still had, all the other health care systems by the government. But I'm just saying that there is some room for negotiation. There is some heart. There's some heartfelt feelings for people who are ill, who cannot afford it, and doctors are willing to do that. And please spare me that doctors only doctors because they want the money. They let people die. They just want the money and drive in their Mercedes sports cars and go home and have a great time. That's garbage. Every doctor that I know has been very, very dedicated, and they would never leave anyone to die if they know they can save that person's lives, regardless of the cost. So I'm just saying that the introduction of Trump into this whole equation doesn't make any sense to me. We're still going to have Medicare. We're still going to have Medicaid. We're still going to have a government health care system. We're still going to maintain the same criteria. So what's to change? The name? Come on, folks. We're going to pay through the nose for this thing. And of course, in order to administer a health care program, you need a government bureaucracy that costs billions of dollars a year just to administer. Now, on a free market system, if you went to a doctor and say, "Hey, I don't feel well," this and that, you talk with the doctor. He does it. He says, "Okay, that'll be $75. You pay it." You got. Where's all the government overhead? There is none, absolutely none. And spare me that if the government didn't oversee the doctors would near kill you. And that's garbage. In fact, you get worse health care today than you ever did in the free market system. And it seems that we're no longer abiding by the Constitution. So we are, number one, he doesn't mention Constitution. He doesn't mention free market. He does on occasion, but very selectively. He should say free market for everything. right? And he says, and returning the Constitution back to the states with the people, not in Washington. Period. Now, if he said that, he'd have to really dissolve most of what Washington is doing today. And that's not going to happen, in my opinion. In my opinion, it's going to be about the same. He's just going to change the name, maybe make some modifications. Most of the stuff is going to be stuck in Congress with people arguing as to, that no one wants to lose their income from the military-industrial complex, from the medical-industrial complex, from, all the other complexes that are pumping money into Washington. They say they're not going to want to give that up. They're going to say, oh, good, I won't get money from these people anymore. I'll vote against it. It's not going to happen. If he really wanted to clean up America, if he wanted to get America to be great again, he would look at how we did things back in 1910. And I know we can go back in time and make things better, believe it or not. And I'm not talking about technology. I'm talking about the Constitution and how people were managed, or how the country was managed back then. Return the power to the states. Now, as far as winning wars overseas, well, here's another story. What is he going to do? Well, he's going to make sure we win. Well, you know how we win? Is if we dismantle all 13 aircraft carriers that are costing us billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars a year just to operate, because they're offensive weapons, brought them home, closed all of the bases around the world. Closed everyone, no exception whatsoever, whether it be near Israel and the Gaza Strip, I know we have none of the Gaza Strip, but in the Middle East, especially anything in and around NATO. And NATO is unconstitutional in and of itself. Just think of this for a second, all right? Poland, I shouldn't pick on Poland, but any country in Europe, gets in a tizzy with another country that's not in NATO. It doesn't have to be Russia. It can be anybody that's not in NATO. And a war breaks out. All of a sudden, the United States is obligated to support that country because they're part of NATO. In other words, we circumvent Congress, which is the only body in the U.S. government that can declare war. All right, we don't declare war. We just send troops and planes and bombs and tanks and all this other stuff over there, right? Fight a war that we never declared. Oh, and under the guise of, well, I'm sorry, we're part of NATO, and we promise to support the NATO nations in the case of a conflict. Well, you can't do that. It's unconstitutional. NATO is unconstitutional. If he had a half a brain cell working, he'd say, first thing, we're out of NATO. Secondly, we get everybody home, close all the bases, get all the aircraft carriers, everyone home. And let me show you how this works. And the thing is, everyone at home is a soldier. Everybody. Man, woman, child, I don't care what age. Everyone defends their country. If, in fact, we were here by ourselves, minding our own business, and someone decided to attack us, which is ludicrous because we're so strong militarily, they wouldn't stand a chance. Even if they threw missiles up in the air, we'd probably knock them out, hopefully. But, I mean, they talk about women in the military. This is a great subject. I just say, absolutely. Every woman in the United States should be in the military. You say, well, Joe, that's inconsistent with what you're talking about. But not the military as you know it. In the event that someone invaded the United States, assuming we're not involved in any other nations, we just sit here minding our own business, and they decided, hey, they like this place, they want to take it over. Every man, woman, and child is in the military. Yeah, we have a formal military, but I'll tell you, if the tanks start rolling in the streets from a foreign country here, you give guns to everybody. Everybody maybe 7 years old and older gets a gun, to protect themselves. And you think under that scenario, someone's going to come to the United States, a pretty big country, and roll across the United States? The Swiss had it right. They said, during World War II, everyone had a gun. All families had guns. Everybody had a gun. They had to. By law, they had to have a gun. A rifle. And they said, when the Nazi tanks rolled through our town, eventually they had to get up, they had to leave to go to the bathroom. And when they did, they were toast. And Hitler was smart. He goes, not a good place to invade, because they have no army per se. They don't have all these cannons, guns, and airplanes and all this stuff, you know. But what do we do when we're there? I mean, everyone has a gun. You go down the street, it's very quiet, no one's shooting at you. Eventually, you have to eat, you have to go to the men's room, you got to do something. You can't sit in the tank forever. What do you take over, you know? Louis Supermarket? I mean, it didn't make any sense. There was no army to defeat. But they literally had to kill all the people. And since it was mountainous, it was very difficult to navigate. And so they were smart. And that's how they stayed out of World War II. We should follow that paradigm. Now, why isn't Trump talking about that? But no, he's talking about building up the military. Building it up is already costing us over $500 billion a year, $658 billion a year. You want more? And how is that going to make America great again? More people hate us? If you look at all the economic indicators, every single one of them, where we used to be number 1, now we're number 12, number 17, number 42. In fact, I had one, I wonder where I have that sheet of paper. Oh, you have a call. Caller, area code 918, you're on the air. Your comment, please. Caller, you're on the air. Hold on a second, we're going to get you. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, Joe.
Yes.
This is Lloyd.
Lloyd, thank you for calling.
Yeah, well, one or two little things there. First off, you said that NATO, of course, I think we should not be in NATO. But if you read the Constitution, since you're talking about the Constitution, Article 6, Paragraph 2, this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land. Now, the NATO is a treaty. So the NATO is the law of the land by the Constitution.
Okay, now, I agree with you. But no argument there. Here's my problem. That country now gets in a armed conflict with another country. We still have to, that means we have to go to war. Congress still has to declare war. Well,
they haven't done that since World War II.
That's my point, Lloyd. That's my point. My point is everyone's talking big, but where's the beef? No one shows me the beef. Remember the ad? Where's the beef? Show me the beef. I know there's a lot of words written a lot of places. There's 70,000 pages of legislation voted on every year in Congress. I don't know how many tens of thousands are approved, probably a majority of it. And so you can take a page from any one of those 10,000 a year, by the way, and say, well, here it says on page, 5,240 this, thus we have to do it. Well, all I'm saying is that's all unconstitutional. Throw it all away, burn it out.
Well, see, that's one problem with the Constitution is the fact that there are several open-ended clauses in there that can be interpreted to be anything. And, of course, that being one of them is that you say, well, yeah, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, but the Constitution says any treaties made by the federal government are to be also the supreme law of the land.
But
and then there's, you have other clauses that they shall make all laws that are, I forgot how it's exactly stated, but all laws that are necessary and proper. That's an open-ended statement.
Right.
That whatever the government decides is necessary and proper, they can do.
All right. Now, I'm not
a real fan of the Constitution. I'm only a fan of the Constitution in the sense that it happens to be the existing law by which we govern. And so I believe in obeying the Constitution and not deviating from it. But the Constitution itself is a very flawed document with so many open-ended statements in there that you can't really live with it.
In the prior us entering World War II, did we get the consent of Congress to declare war?
Yeah, the Congress is supposed to be the ones that declare war.
But we
yes.
haven't declared war on Syria. We haven't declared war on. We didn't declare war on Iraq. We didn't declare war on Iran. We didn't declare war on Libya. I mean, I can probably name 100 places that we have troops. We didn't declare war on any of these countries. We just send them to. Now without droning, we're not really at war. We're just sending drones and killing people willy-nilly. You know, I mean, where's the outrage in Congress? Where are these congressmen saying, you know, we're not murderers. I don't want to be part of this organization. I want out. If this is the way we're going to do business, I want out. That's the type of person I want in office. I don't want a guy saying, I'm going to modify this and make America great again by bombing even more people.
Well, that's true, and I would agree with you. I would love to have all our congressmen and senators that were simply wanting to defend the nation instead of be an offensive nation. But you know, that's not what we have, and it's kind of similar with the fact that our Federal Reserve notes are unconstitutional as well.
Absolutely, I agree. Listen, I would love to say, look,
yeah,
if you want to go to war, if you're a senator, you want to go to war, put a uniform on. Here, I'll buy you the damn gun. You go over there, call me, and let me know how you're doing. You know, it's easy for me to send you to die. That's easy, you know. You want to send me to die? I go, excuse me, I have to go shopping for my wife first, you know. I'll have any excuse in the world. I'll even buy my wife a new pair of shoes that she doesn't need. Anything to avoid war. But these clowns are a bunch of cowards because they won't go. You want to go? Go, but don't send me. I want to stay here. You know, I haven't seen a Russian tank. I haven't seen a tank from the Middle East, from in any Middle East country, no Eastern country, no Southeast Asia country. None of their tanks have I seen on my street. And yet, we're sending people 10,000 miles. Could you imagine the lunacy of this thinking process? Could you imagine people say, oh, they want to kill us? These people in Syria, for example, and any place in the Middle East, most of those people are really poor. I mean, incredibly poor, poorer than the poorest people in the United States. When they get up in the morning, everything being equal, assuming no war is going on, what's the first thing on their mind? Will I have any water today? Well, that's clean that I can drink. Will I have enough water for my family? Will I have food for my family? Will I have any work today? You know, will we suffer a monsoon and all die today? This is what they're concerned about. Will we have enough food to eat? Will my children starve to death? They don't wake up and say, you know, Abdul, you know, I just had this feeling I want to go bomb the United States. I mean, it's lunacy, but that's the way our idiots in Washington talk. And you know what? We are dumber than the idiots in Washington because the ones in Washington are the ones that are pulling all the strings and making us so, oh yeah, man, that's right, we got to do that because if we don't do that, they're going to come over here and kill us, you know. We become a bunch of namby-pamby idiots. We can't think at all. We repeat everything we see on television. That's why the government loves television. Give everyone a free TV, watch the mainstream media all day long, and just repeat everything we say. Good thing I'm not excited today.
Yeah, well, of course, I mean, there's a lot can be said there, but back to what I was getting at of our Federal Reserve notes. Those are unconstitutional.
I agree. They're garbage.
But the constitutional money is gold and silver.
Agree.
Now, the thing of it is, I'm not going to spend my silver and my gold down at the supermarket because it would end up not buying anything. Other than the face value of my silver coins.
Absolutely, I agree.
So I'm going to continue to use the Federal Reserve notes until another system comes along, and I'm going to collect as many Federal Reserve notes as I can get, even though they're unconstitutional.
Right.
So we're living under an unconstitutional system, but we have to live within the confines of the unconstitutional, the de facto law, rather than the legitimate law.
I
And
agree. I'm 100% agree with you.
Yeah, if we were to all of a sudden say, okay, if Donald Trump, say, for instance, said, okay, we're going to live by only gold and silver money right now. Well, okay, we get rid of all the Federal Reserve notes and we start living by silver and gold. Here's one big problem that a lot of people don't look at, and that it would have to be a system that worked out to where our trade imbalance would be put back in order. Right now, we got a $500 billion trade imbalance with China, something like that.
Right.
Well, the problem with the gold standard in the old days was the fact that you had to keep kind of a trade balance with other nations. Otherwise, all your gold and silver goes to the other nation while you get the goods.
Right.
Pretty soon, you're out of money.
Right.
That was the whole problem that they were trying to solve with their fiat systems. So in order to get back to a gold and silver standard, you're going to have to get back to a trade balance where we're not buying everything from China. We have to start manufacturing again.
Yeah,
only by manufacturing and exporting things, get your trade balance back, can you have a money system that will work. So in a sense, whether Donald Trump knows it or not, and I'm not sure that he's that deeply involved in the monetary system, but just by chance, he's actually trying to get us back to a balanced trade system. And once that occurs, then you could go to a gold and silver backed currency, because we would be exporting and our gold and silver would be coming back.
I agree.
To us rather. So, I mean, it may be just completely accidental that he's doing this, and I disagree with the whole thing of all the tariffs and stuff like that. I disagree with him on most things economic, but he's a little smarter than what people give him credit for.
He's not stupid.
If all you're getting about Donald Trump is what you're getting off of the mainstream media, you have a very skewed image of what he's all about. I mean, I seriously believe he wants the best for the country. I don't believe he knows how to do it, but at least he is, in one degree, he is kind of unifying a lot of the people on the one side, whereas Soros is trying to, set up civil disobedience and everything.
Lloyd, and who is he attracting into his cabinet, into his sphere of influence? All the people that have been working in Washington under the system for decades, who are part of the system. Why doesn't he have the likes of a Ron Paul? Why doesn't he have people who are part of the Cato Institute? How about these independent think tanks, the Libertarian Party? Why doesn't he have these people in it? No, he has all the old hacks. They're going to get the same old crap, modified, maybe a little bit better, but it's not going to solve the problem. Lloyd, the only thing that we haven't talked about, in fact, I was at a business meeting a few days ago. Believe it or not, everyone hates me. I know you find that difficult to believe. Everyone disagrees with me, But I said, they were talking about how Trump was going to solve. I said, no, he can't do that. I said, because first there must be pain. I said, we gave things away for free. Everything was free. Everything was supposed to be forget the pain and the gain. There's going to be no pain, no gain, no nothing. Everyone's going to. And I said, once you stop that system, there has to be pain, and you can't turn things around and make everything nice and rosy again, and there be no pain. I said, first there's got to be a tremendous amount of pain. Then, once there's pain, we can fix what we're doing. He's not going through the pain cycle. He's going to try to get the people that are in the system already to modify it, to reduce or eliminate the pain and sort of change it. Never going to happen.
You may be misinterpreting his intentions on bringing, like Mitt Romney, who was seriously, criticizing him. He's bringing in a lot of the people as a gesture towards, again, getting the people behind him and trying to unify. Now, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to be out there doing their own independent thinking, and I don't have a whole lot of regard for Mitt Romney, never did. But the other people he's putting in, it looks like he's making concessions on on a scale of trying to bring the party back together so that he can get things through Congress. Because if he were to bring Ron Paul in, Dr. No, the real Dr. No, not Coburn, like people claim. Ron Paul was Dr. No long before Coburn.
Right.
But if he were to just bring in a whole bunch of people like that, do you think Congress and the Senate would get behind anything he proposed for legislation?
No, I agree. I mean, he would. Ron Paul would not be the front man, but Ron Paul would explain to him, what a true free market system is, because I don't think he understands that. He wouldn't put, Ron Paul would be the closet guy. I mean, you would never see him, but he doesn't understand what's going on. He wants to build more of a wall. He wants to, this it's insane, stupid stuff. I mean, it seems like my kids when they were young were brighter than these guys. I don't have much respect for his programs that he is adopting. Now, some of it sounds good, but he doesn't put the words with it that makes it run good. There's my problem. Like if he said we're going to have health care, it's going to be a free market health care. Go see any doctor you want. You negotiate with him. God bless you. Good luck. Good night. I'd say there's a guy that I want to vote for. But not repeal and replace and modify and, oh, my God, forget about it. It never happened. Hey, forget about it. Like in Harlem, New York. Hey, forget about it. It's never going to happen. Listen, Lloyd, if you are correct, and this guy's going to make things better, okay, I'm going to buy you a hot dog at Quick Trip here in Tulsa. How about that?
Well, I was hoping for a little more. I remember you mentioning once that you could afford one of them big four-wheel drive pickups, but you didn't want it.
Yeah.
I could sure use one of those.
Okay, you got it. You got it, Lloyd. Lloyd, thanks a million for calling in. I love when you call in. I love hollering at you, because when I holler at my wife this way, she hits me, At least you don't hit me. I appreciate it very much. Thanks a lot for calling in. And stay tuned with us and call back and give me a hard time, please. I love you. Thank you very much, Lloyd.
All righty.
All right, bye-bye. Folks, but Lloyd's absolutely right. He is attempting to do things. But, sometimes when you attempt to do things, but you don't have the right people, and philosophically you're not on the right track, and you want to change things, you can modify things. Some things maybe get better, but then you have unintended consequences, and you have some things worse. I just don't have the faith. Now, maybe I should. Maybe I'm a man of little faith. But I don't think this is ever going to happen, and not going to happen. In fact, I can see things getting worse. I would love for every one of my listeners to go on the internet and put in the wall between Mexico and the United States. There are hundreds of pictures, and some are hilarious. Some are where it's by the water. You'll see these posts that go into the water, and people are walking around, swimming around, and it is absolutely ludicrous. And then the only thing that it's really keeping out are the wildlife that migrate from Mexico to southern part of the United States, and it's killing the migration and a lot of the animals there. But it's not keeping the people out. In fact, I just saw yesterday a picture of kids, and this was a solid wall. They found a way, to get some ropes, throw it over the top, and climb over it like mountain climbers, and they're climbing over this 20-foot wall. No problem. They're walking straight up and jumping off the other side. What are you going to do? Have thousands and thousands of soldiers there shooting people as they come over the wall? Oh, please, spare me. In the 1930s, we had no wall. We had freedom of movement. And when people stopped picking lettuce, you know what they did? They didn't bomb the United States. They went home to their families. Walls don't keep people out. They keep people in. When are we going to realize that? But it sounds so good. We're going to get tough on immigration. And yes, are there bad people coming in? Sure, there are bad people coming in as well as good people. But there are bad people in Tulsa. Does that mean that Oklahoma City should build a wall because some bad people in Tulsa may come to Oklahoma City? So build a wall, build a moat, get tanks in the street. It's insane. Everything we do is insane because we don't think. All right? It is now 12:35. I've passed the witching hour. I want to thank you very much for listening to my rant. I only have about 45 other subjects. We'll catch them some other time. Remember to return back to us today, Central Time. 4 o'clock. Is that 4 o'clock? 4 o'clock, we're going to have Rick Rule. We're sorry, our timing was off. About 19 people in the studio will get fired, if not thrown out the window, for making this mistake. I can guarantee you they will all suffer tremendously, but they deserve it. They deserve it. They work for me. They deserve to be punished. What are you going to do? But we will be back at 4 o'clock, really with the same people. I'm not going to do anything to them. I love them all. I sound like Trump. I love them all. I love everybody, Anyway, but be back at 4 o'clock when we have Rick Rule. We're going to talk, with Rick Rule, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about Donald Trump, by the way. We talk about his economic policies. We're going to talk about a gentleman by the name of Benjamin Graham. He's an economist. We're going to talk about gold and precious metals, and I have some questions for him. Okay? So come back and stay with us right now. Okay? Listen, this is the end of today's broadcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors for the financial support, and we'd like to thank you for listening in. You can further the cause of liberty by recommending this program to your friends. But let me hear from you. Our email address is comments@libertytalkradio.com. Remember, you're either allowing your liberties to be taken away or you're striving to protect them. Unfortunately, folks, as my wife would say, there is no middle ground. Until next time, this is Joe Cristiano. You've been listening to Liberty Talk Radio. Stay well. Stay tuned.